Wait a minute. I normally don't teleport in my bed unless Sean is hiding from me. No. He would never do that. Huh. There's him now. Dear Cass, I'm hiding from you. Whoa. Hello one, hello all, it's the gothiest ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Beth Gibbons' Lives Outgrown. Beth Gibbons, legendary singer, songwriter of the most iconic, legendary, groundbreaking, innovative trip-hop groups of all time, Portishead, has released her brand new studio album, and due to how fire the singles have been, I have definitely been waiting for this. Definitely one of my most anticipated albums of the year. And with the singles being as fantastic as they've been, you can't really blame me for feeling that way. With singles such as Floating on a Moment, that starts off with a bold, steadily plucked bass line, but they're plucked very tensely, with this heavy vocals in the background that sound reverbed. And in a way, even though this album is a new album and has come out this year, I feel there is a similarity somewhat to how the Portis albums were back in the 90s. But I feel this is definitely a refresher, like, due to how this is a new album and it sounds like medieval times, I kind of think this serves as a prequel to what we heard back in the 90s. With its strings and mythical presence and folk and choir-like backing vocals from a children's choir, there's really so much detail here, with the raw drums and hypnotic string progression, and not to mention Beth's enchanting, gorgeous vocals. And going back to the callbacks and going back to the recreation, as I alluded to with the Portishead era, I feel that does carry on to Reaching Out, which is probably the most epic song on the album, with these bombastic horn shots, with the drums and bass panning channel to channel, which carries on the density and intensity that if James Bond was to go back in time and be chased by this medieval terrorist faction. And I love how the strings carry on this weariness to them, as the drums and horns carry on this really intense groove that sounds so tribal as these haunting vocals just haunt through, with these weeping strings that bring a very beautiful contrast to the momentum. It's definitely an exhilarating ride, and I love how the little bits of effects really do complement and really do fill in the gaps in the space, but really don't make it sound cheesy or overproduced. It really does add character to this album. Like on the single Lost Changes. Lost changes. Love changes, which is easily one of the most, if not the most, moving track on this whole album. With how passionate this is and how mesmerizing this is, this really does show Beth in her balladry game. And even though this track is very layered, very full, it's definitely very light at the same time, with these odd hypnotic backing embellishments. And with the elegant strings, I feel like I'm in this psychedelic ballroom in a romantic dream sequence of ghost horror series. Maybe Haunting at Hill House, maybe. As this track expresses evolving through loving, understanding, and how emotions and events could really change someone. And the backing expansions definitely do remind me of Pink Floyd. And also the whistling and the percussions and just the overall enchanting instrumentation just gives it such a moving experience. It's very, very awe-inspiring. So while this album does have beautiful moments, it does not shy away from the oddity, nor does it shy away from anything that would give it a serious tone, especially with the intensity on Rewind, which is probably the most foreboding of the tracks here, with the distorted guitar tones that are just invaded by these sporadic sax lines. This whole track feels like a trippy Middle Eastern journey in the desert, where we get this absolutely unhinged barrage of rubbery bass and drums with this dramatic strumming that leads to a clip of kids playing in a pool, or Burden of Life that has these syncopated drums playing alongside these ominous guitar lines, accompanied by these eerie snares, accompanied by these brittle snares, and eerie polyrhythmic strings that really do embold the very haunting narrative this track brings about being burdened by the obstacles of existence. And there's also Oceans, which is a favorite of me and my babe Breeze, along with No Sail. But back to Oceans, which has these very pained lyrics and vocals that has this immensely unsettling repetition to them, in whispering melodies and bold horn lines, as Beth expresses her deepest emotions, most troubling feelings, as Beth expresses her feelings and deepest emotions and doubts, which leads her to feeling fatigued and defeated, but still longing for optimism. Despite most of the lyrics being doomer territory, I do find something very empowering about this track, mostly due to the delivery of this, the performance of this, the instrumentation of this, and the song Sail, which I alluded to earlier, another favorite of me and Babe Bree's tracks here. Shout out to my Babe Bree. Love you. And I was showing her this album on speaker, and upon listening to this numerous times, she emphatically told me, "You gotta hear this song, it's really fucking good." And upon listening to it again, I was like, oh hell yeah, I fuck with this too, this is amazing. It was a beautiful musical bonding moment. And I love the folky strums, the squiggly slides added on, with these sharp cuts of strings. And I love how immersive she is within the instrumentation, as it gives way to a passage of Middle Eastern majesty, with its raw percussion that just gives it a dramatic, enchanting finish. And after that we have Beyond the Sun, where Beth once again brings in these chilling children's vocals and these echoing drums, almost becoming entrancing in a way, alongside these cycling chords. And I feel this is the point of the album where we definitely do get the post-rock-esque moments that really work with the vibrational tones and the tribal drums. And I love how the track intensifies and picks up with the instrumentation. And the closer, Whispering Love, being the longest track here, has a really gorgeous build, bringing together these beautiful beds of strings and chirping. And I feel slightly similar to Turning Wheel, which may be the opposite in a way. I guess what I'm getting at here is I do feel there is a nocturnal to daylight contrast here and sequence here. How when this album finishes, it's like a new day has begun. And I feel is definitely symbolic to the growth, like lives outgrown, that maybe the past was the life and now that's outgrown, we're on to a new day, a new age. But yeah, that's the album. And after listening to this numerous times, contextualizing this, putting everything all together, I can honestly say this is a fantastic album. And there wasn't really a doubt in my mind that it would be, due to, again, how fantastic the singles were, how fantastic Portishead's discography is, how Beth has been killing it with feature after feature, especially on the Kendrick Lamar album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, on the very traumatizing, very telling track, Mother I Sober, and now bringing us a very beautiful, moving, very heartfelt, very gorgeous album that shows Beth could kill it with prog, folk, art rock, post rock, and chamber music as well. If there's any track I felt was just okay and a little underwhelmed by, it'd probably be the opener. I do feel that track is a bit long-winded and not as compelling and engaging as the rest of the tracks here. But other than that, this is a stellar, fantastic album, and I'm feeling a 4.5 out of 5 hearts on this album. But if you've given this a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And that's it. Beth Gibbons, Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Lives Outgrown. Till we meet again.